Hey everyone. Yes. Leave it to the government, these central planning control freaks. They'll never leave any chance or opportunity that's presented towards them to use more authoritarian measures towards the people, towards the population. They'll never leave that, or if that's on the table for them, they'll never avoid it. They're going to take advantage of it, they're going to jump on it, they're going to attack it, and they're going to run with it. CBC News out of Calgary. Changes to Canada's drunk driving laws will give police sweeping powers, warn legal experts. So, as if the people right now, and I mean, like I say, if you went across the country of Canada and not did some stupid ass fucking survey or a petition or a poll, right, where people could lie, but if you went to each household across this entire country or found the actual real statistics of how many people in this country, how many, not just people, individuals, personal lives, but families and even communities, how much devastation has happened as a result of all this fucking forced collectivism and preemptive and collective punishments that the central planners use. Like, just like I say, it's too much work and it requires too much effort and intellect and proper things. That's just too hard for them. So they like to, central planners are lazy. They're parasites. So they want to do everything the easy way. And the easy way is just use a big giant iron fist on everyone, right? That's what collective and mandatory punishments do. And now they're looking to ramp it up just a little bit further. But like I say, I guarantee there's probably, I dare say there's a Canadian family that doesn't have at least one person in their life that they know have had their lives greatly hampered, hindered, or even destroyed as a result of an impaired driving charge where there was actually no victim. Just the pretense, just the concept, just the very possibility that there may have been a crime committed, right? This is what people use nowadays, is the potential for crime. So even if you don't actually commit a crime, laws are on the books now that, well, hey, there's a potential that you may have committed a crime, so we're going to turn it into a crime anyways. That's what these laws are. Like I said, if there's no victim, there's actually no genuine crime. But because we live in the world of, our laws aren't actual created through like what used to be common or actual just laws, right? Like the actual common laws that come to fruition as a result of 800 plus years of learning these things, right? Of the advancement of the intellect, both in the legal profession, the moral, and even the philosophical area, right? But we're gone backwards, folks. Like I say, we're gone backwards in time completely. When you look out on the landscape today, people in the 19th century, after the Enlightenment era of the 18th century, people are as dumb as fuck now. There were people a couple hundred years ago that were much more enlightened, even though maybe not as large a percentage of the population was, but enough of them apparently that mattered, because we actually did have the Enlightenment era, where actual human freedom did come to exist for a short time frame. But like I say, we're going back down, back down. It's that race to the bottom. And like I say, well, even if you're standing on the pile of shit when it's going down to the bottom, well, you're still standing on a pile of shit. So are you really a winner? Nah. Opponents say a proposed legislation begs for a charter challenge. Well, I'll even say right now, I mean, I don't even understand how the drink and driving one hasn't been challenged. I mean, I would love to have done it. I went through the appeal process, but I'm poor. I mean, that's the thing. I suppose that's what it is. I guess they don't fuck with the wealthy people, right? Because the wealthy people could take it through all the way through to the Supreme Court. So that's, I guess, how it never makes, these cases never make the Supreme Court, where they would, if there was any true justice system in Canada, if there's any semblance of it left, they would have already been overturned. People like myself wouldn't have had their lives completely destroyed if someone actually had to challenge this through the charter all the way up to the Supreme Court. Like I say, I can't. I mean, that takes years. I couldn't even afford to fucking pay for a lawyer for my... Like, once they take your career, your livelihood, your income away from you, unless you're naturally wealthy or have massive connections or a wealthy family, how can you? You can't. Like I say, it's almost an impossibility. Fortunately, there's a few exceptions to the case, and those ones are the ones that do finally get through and go through the whole process to the Supreme Court. And hopefully the Supreme Courts, you have actual genuine decent judges that understand the law properly and will carry out, moral and objective concepts in regards to the law, then you could have all this stuff overturned. But once again, you're still relying on human beings. So it's still open to interpretation and subjugation, even though you would hope they would be objective. But that's not always a guarantee. Anyways, let's get down and read the portion of this article. If Canada's new impaired driving laws are passed, police could show up on your doorstep up to 2 hours after you arrive home to demand a breath or saliva sample. So what's this in regards to, I mean, we just read not too long ago, and if I can find it and remember, I'll post a link to it in the description of this video below, but I believe there was actually a cop that was off duty. They used that bullshit lame excuse and got drunk afterwards or whatever. But like I said, they're going to pick that fucking example or maybe another example or maybe that. But like I said, they're just going to throw everyone into a pile and create this big massive net that's going to catch a whole lot of fucking people that aren't actual criminals just to try to hopefully nab the ones that are criminals. But once again, the ones that are truly criminals, they're still going to, well, especially a cop, he didn't get punished at all actually. What, little fucking maybe, paid week off or something, they never get punished. You know this. They never get punished and nothing really happens. Their life is not affected in any way, shape, form in comparison to you, like you or I, the average, Canadian serf, right? Just the regular people of Canada. No. So what always happens in these situations, these scenarios, is they create these laws and it's all about, we're going to send a message. We're going to make you an example. But yeah, you make the certain person or a few people or even a small group of people, they're going to suffer massive consequences, right? And that's going to send a message. But like I said, that's you believing that the people that are the real criminals are like, oh shit, that message is terrible. I'm going to stop being a criminal. I mean, holy fuck. Talk about utopian. You want to talk about... If you believe that shit's real, like I say, I got some oceanfront property in Arizona I want to sell you, right? Because that's just not how reality plays out. It's one of the things that most concerns Calgary defense lawyer Dale Federchuk, who says the proposed law begs for a constitutional challenge. Federchuk says officers would have the power to charge someone with impaired driving even after they park their vehicle. So once again, just like with... if you refuse a breathalyzer, you're automatically charged with impaired too. That's another thing. I hope you Canadians realize this, is even if you refuse to abide to the readings, well, they're still going to charge you and criminalize you regardless. So without no proof or anything, like I say, now they know that they know that there's different ways and methods that people can try to fight and counteract the state's imposition of all these collective and mandatory punishments. But every time some lawyer finds a way to try to give freedom or give the people a leg up against these central planning control freaks, well, they won't allow that to last very long, so they just find a way to squish that too. So like I say, there's no longer any semblance of actual justice in fucking Canada. It's all ruled by edict, by opinions of central planning control freaks, these authoritarian types. That's the kind of world you live in, whether you want to recognize and realize that or not. And if you don't realize that, that means you've been a very good little conformist, very good little serf or slave to the ruling class. Pat yourself on the back for that, but I guarantee you've lived a much more boring fucking life than those of us who aren't, right? Yeah. Being a good little conformist, or you weren't, and you realize that, you weren't punished in the same way or the same standard as everyone else. So you realize there's still a discrepancy and injustice that happens in this system. No matter which way you look at it, like I say, there's no way to actually properly defend it unless I've even heard lawyers that have tried to put forth an actual rebuttal. But like I say, even with that, a truly objective judge would reject all the bullshit outright, and like I say, all these mandatory minimums would be thrown out. Now, the Liberals are starting to push back a little bit against that, and I hope they actually continue in that, I guess, to try to save their ass for the federal race in 2019 to determine who gets to be the rulers of Canadians from that point going forward. I don't understand the reasoning, said Federchuk. Why do we have to be concerned about people who are already home? Right? So think about it. Even if you were drinking and driving, but you made it home and you're in your driveway and you're in your house sleeping, was there a crime committed? Was there a victim involved? Nope. But like I say, them bastards, like I say, control freaks. Think about the mindset of a person like, even though they made it home and nobody was harmed, we're going to punish them anyways. This is the world we live in, folks. And when you have fucking a bunch of central planning control freaks that are their whole job is to go to this place every day and figure out how they can come up with new ways to mess with the people. Well, yeah, you're going to get everything that you ask for when you ask for central planning governments. Believe me. The Trudeau government introduced sweeping changes last month that include, among other measures, mandatory roadside breath samples and much harsher penalties for some offenders that could result in up to 10 years in prison. Police can also demand a roadside saliva sample, but they must first have reasonable suspicion that a driver has drugs in their body. So, don't worry, give it time. That'll all change. Like I say, they don't do it all at once. It's that boiling frog kind of scenario, right? They'll just turn the heat up a little bit. They'll just take a little bit of your rights, death by 1,000 cuts. But it's coming. Watch it. I know this first and forehand. Or I know this with 100% certainty. Well, I can't say 100% because we don't live in because there is such thing as free will. Things can change, I guess, but based on historical precedent and the kind of mindset these control freaks and sociopaths, the kind of mindset that they have, like I said, these people don't care about anything except having power and control over every aspect of your life. They go into government. That's literally the job description if you want to go into government. So, right? The changes, which were announced the same day the federal government unveiled its bill to legalize marijuana, are stirring a lot of debate among local lawyers, legal experts, and victim groups who are lining up on either side to either praise or pan the legislation. I'm a little puzzled, actually, said Calgary law professor Lisa Silver. Along with Federchuk, Silver also predicts the law will be challenged on constitutional grounds because police will no longer require reasonable suspicion before demanding a breath sample. Officers can simply demand a test and drivers will have no choice since refusing to provide a sample in Canada is a criminal code offense. See, like I said before, even if you refuse, you stand up for your rights, right, to not offer. I mean, that's actually, was it the Fifth Amendment or Part 5 of the Canadian Charter? I'd have to go back and look at it, but against illegal searches and seizures, right? So if you refuse that, you actually, under natural or common law, you have every bit of right to not have to offer any evidence that may incriminate you in the court of law. So a breath test, a urine test, all these things that they ask for you to do, or they demand that you do, it's already unconstitutional and unjust under natural or common laws, like I said, that we've understand instinctively for hundreds and hundreds of years. So that's already not just unjust, it's immoral. But like I said, they've pushed that post so far, and Canadians have been willing to seemingly take it, right? Or people aren't willing to challenge it, or they don't have the ability to challenge it. So they're like, hey, let's push it just a little bit further. See how far we can get away with it, right? Yeah. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. There's going to be litigation around this for sure, says Silver. Section 8 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom states everyone has the right to be secure against, here it is, so Section 8, against unreasonable search or seizure. Silver says once a sample is unreasonably seized, a driver would essentially be conscripted against themselves. It's still playing in that line no matter what. But they're saying, well, surely they're not going to push the post even further, but she underestimates the sociopathic tendencies of these control freaks in government, apparently. Although she should understand if you spend every day in a court of law, or at least 5 days a week in the courts in this country, and you're that fucking foolish that you don't believe what these central planning control freaks are going to do, either you haven't been doing it long enough, or you're just, I don't know. There's probably not much help for you. What you've given those officers will be used against you to convict you ultimately in court, said Silver. So you're already, like I say, even when they stop you on a sobriety test on the road as you're traveling home, with not even being, think about it, you're not being suspected of any crime, of committing any crime, but if you're driving down the road and they got one of those road stops or those roadside checks set up, right, and they ask you for your license, registration, ask you for your papers and all that stuff, or suspect, oh, do I smell alcohol? Oh, your eyes look bloodshot. They'll automatically, but that's their trick right there. It is, that's our reasonable suspicion. But I mean, think about it. I could make up anything in my mind and suspect anyone. Who's going to question it? What, a judge? Way after the fact? Oh, I'll have all kinds of time to make sure I've covered all that. And if I'm a cop and I do this on a regular basis, I'll pretty much perfect that one, right? I'll learn after my first few mistakes, right? To perfect and dot my I's and cross all my T's beforehand. So like I say, it's all so fucked up, Canada. Why the fuck people want to, it's that race to the bottom. And some people that don't like drinkers, some people don't like people that smoke drugs, and it's like I said in past videos. Oh, I'm going to use the government against you. Well, I'm going to use the government against you. Well, I'm going to use the government against you. Well, now everyone is enslaved by everybody. Congratulations, Canada. And I see you out there every day. You look like an awful bunch of miserable motherfuckers, right? Doesn't look like it's making you very happy. Secure? I don't know, maybe. I don't even think you believe you're actually secure because you seem to keep clamoring for government doing even more. So what's it going to take for you to feel secure? What? I've said this, and a lot of us have joked in the past. Why do you got to fuck with everyone else out there? If you want to feel so safe and secure, you're the one that should be in prison or jail. You get 3 meals a day, roof paid for. You get all your socialism, all your collectivism, all your forced subjugation, and you're secured to the boot. Right? Stop fucking with us that actually enjoy our freedoms. Why don't you fucks go put yourself, instead of a self-contained bubble, put yourself in these prisons and jail cells. They'll take care of you. They'll protect you from, the mean public that are out there just trying to have fun. Right? Not everyone out there has a drink or smokes a joint or does any other kind of drug is out there and evil and trying to kill you. Matter of fact, because we have so many technologies today, right, that can help in so many ways and prevent a lot of this stuff from happening, right? But like I said, governments don't want to do that because governments don't own those companies or those businesses that are finding ways to help people out from these kind of things. But like I say, central planners look out on the world because they're authoritarian and control freaks. They look out as the populace as just a big bunch of nails. And they think of themselves as a hammer. So they just clunk, 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 clunk. They just keep beating you on the head every time they get a chance. That's how they figure they can fix things, right? That's their only method. That's their only means. That's their only pretense of power. And you keep giving it to them. Now, I'll post this. I'm not going to finish the rest of it. I think you get the point. A lot of this stuff is just bullshit. And now it's going to come down to with saliva tests. Like I said, it's not just towards drinking. Drugs is also talked about in here because this is all having to do with the push for legalization of marijuana. But like I said, you gave the government more pretense of authority over you by asking them permission for something. Well, now you're going to get it. But in addition to that, now you're even fucking up people that have already... like I say, I wish it could only affect you. I wish those of you who vote for central planning and authoritarians to rule over your life, I wish you could only have them to rule over your lives. I wouldn't have no problem. If you want to have an authority figure or a mommy daddy take care of you from fucking cradle to grave, that's fine. The problem is that those very same people have the pretense to think that they have authority over me too. That's my biggest problem with all this forced collectivism, this forced subjugation, this collective mysticism of central planning. Like I say, I'll post a link to this article in the description of the video below. You continue to read it on, check it out, see what else it's got to, what's entailed in the subject. It is kind of important topics, especially if you're a young millennial, like a lot of young people today. Whether you drink or smoke, though, because like I say, it's not now just involved with your driving habits or your, now like we're talking about workplace or where you can get it. But you really need to be astute and start learning some of these things so you don't make the same mistakes continuing and going forward of asking central planning control freaks for permission or the pretense of being their authority, of being an authority over you. It's G'day, Libertarian, and I love liberty.